Welcome to today's episode of Marketing Innovators Podcast. Today we have Patty Romeo, who is the VP of Marketing at Juvonno, a privately owned software company that supports more than 5,000 health professionals across Canada. Patty brings with her years of experience working in early stage technology startups and small businesses looking to scale. Patty, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Mouneeb.
It's interesting to kind of gone through your background, and if you can start with telling us a little bit about your current role and how you ended up here.
Sure. So I feel very privileged to have had quite a varied work experience over my career. So I was a student athlete in university, got a business degree at North Dakota State University, focused in marketing, spent a few years in the corporate world, learned a ton about processes, structure, and workflow, discovered I prefer to have more autonomy and freedom in my role. So an opportunity came up at a local startup in the ed tech space. At the time, they had just won the award for most promising startup in Canada, and I became their first hire. Spent a few years there wearing a bunch of different hats. So got my feet wet with everything client facing, from, customer support, to customer success and implementation, to sales and marketing, and kind of landed in a customer success role where I was helping some of these very large school districts implement software, and learned firsthand how challenging change management can be. And so through all that experience, though, I think it's really lended itself well to being in a marketing role where empathy and understanding your clients is so crucial to sending the right message. So after a while, I kind of wanted to move away from that high stress VC funded startup world. And so found a home at what was then called Global Office Software, now known as Juvonno, and joined a great group of people who were kind of transforming this like long time privately owned company into one that was ready to scale and grow. And so I took a position as an enterprise sales associate and spent a year doing that before heading into marketing. And that sales role as well also set me up for success in the marketing position, because I learned the product really, really well. I had countless conversations with the client firsthand, and really got a good understanding of their pain points and what they were looking for in a solution. And so at a pivotal time when I came in, we were still trying to figure out who we were as a company. We were kind of also going through the process of rebranding from Global Office Software to Juvonno. And so it was a really interesting time to join the team, because not only were we ready to scale, we were rebranding, and we were also, building out those processes that are necessary for scalability.
Wow. So obviously, when you're actually coming into a startup and you're trying to build the brand, you're trying different marketing techniques. So can you maybe shed some light as far as what kind of marketing has worked well for the brand?
Yeah, I think market research to an extent for sure. And just having a close alignment with sales, like having gone from the sales to the marketing role, I already knew some of those things. So when I had started in that sales role, I think we were probably getting 2 to 3 inbound leads a month. The majority of our efforts were outbound sales. And so we were kind of just throwing anything to the wall, seeing what stuck, trying to figure out, what niche our system was best suited for. And eventually we started narrowing our focus to large clinic chains and started to see some real traction. So we started to discover quite quickly that, okay, we're onto something here. Juvonno's a good fit for these large clinic chains. I believe there was an aha moment in that process where we had an important meeting with a CEO, one of the largest prospects we had ever encountered. And within one meeting, he said, "This is a fit. I want to move forward." And that's just not unheard of. Like in the sales process, it was usually about 2 weeks at least. And this CEO was ready to jump on board after one meeting. And so I think, at least for me, that was an aha moment. And I think for the team as well, because we started crafting our messaging around that niche market. And I think everything just sort of evolved from there, and establishing who our target audience was, who we were best suited for, and what made us unique. And so I think for me, when I stepped into this role, I tried to dig further into what our value proposition is. And so, okay, so now we know we're a good fit for these multi-location clinic chains, but why? And so I started to try to craft a message around that why. And what I discovered was a big reason these clinics were choosing us over our competitors was it came down to flexibility and the ability to tailor our system to their needs, having an agile team like us as well. So being small, can sometimes be a disadvantage, but in our case, it was actually a very big strength because we already had a very robust, flexible system that had been around for years. But we also had a team who was very receptive to feedback, who could build some of those custom development items where necessary, where that's not as feasible when you're a large organization. So, anyways, to answer your question in short, I think, establishing a strategic position and messaging was crucial in, over the years.
So you spoke about messaging, and I think that's really important to align the messaging with the customer journey, so that you can actually convert more prospects online. And I'm wondering, what kind of messaging insights did you come across that would actually impact in reducing the sales cycle?
I think when you know who you're targeting, you can kind of organically weed out the folks that you're not speaking to. So one of the things we really focused on was building out a website that had consistent messaging across the board. And so by speaking to our target audience, I think when those sole practitioners come to our website, not that we aren't well suited for them, but they'll quickly discover, okay, this system is pretty robust, it's pretty tech savvy and powerful. Not sure if it's quite a fit for us. So I think when you get the messaging right, you kind of organically qualify more leads for the sales team. And I think we've seen that in our numbers. I think our traffic has increased 400% over the last few years. And just in the past year, we've increased the number of sales qualified leads by 165%. So that messaging is clearly working.
So with regards to COVID, though, like a lot of companies have been impacted by COVID and the state that we're actually in. How has that impacted your business?
Yeah. So being a software company, many of our solutions solve the problems that a lot of our clients were encountering. So like, for example, how do you reach all your patients en masse within a couple minutes, right? So we were on the verge of building out a solution that would allow clinics to email or text message their patients at once and automate that process. We launched that feature sooner to allow our clinics to keep their clients up to speed on whether they were open or closed, what their COVID-19 procedures were. And then we kind of launched it before we were ready. So we launched it in beta, but that was one of those features that a software solution really enabled clinics to better communicate with their clients and patients, and just made that process a lot easier than it would have been without Juvonno. And then so another thing that we did in response to COVID was, COVID-19 screening surveys. There just became a lot more admin work to do for clinics. I'm sure you're familiar with the process of, you go to a clinic, you need to let them know if you've traveled outside of Canada in the past 14 days, all those standard questions. We were able to automate that for our clinics so that patients get that form before they even arrive at their appointment. They can fill it out conveniently from home, from a smartphone or a tablet or any device. And then that clinic gets that instant feedback as opposed to having to deal with paper, which was another obstacle for clinics because, you don't want people touching paper or limiting personal contact with things. So.
Yeah, a lot of these guidelines have been put into place, and so many clinics have had to adapt to this. And there are so many inefficiencies that, unfortunately, they have to go through. So, So what is Juvonno's value proposition to the clinics?
So we're an all-in-one solution to manage your clinic online. So anything that is being done on paper or is cumbersome from an admin standpoint should be simplified with our software. And that means we're a one-stop shop for anything from scheduling, billing, patient records, communications, and more venturing into analytics and that patient experience. So in terms of our unique value prop, again, I'd say it comes back to, okay, so we have these features, but they really adapt to those nuances within your process. So for example, do you want patients to automatically book appointments into your schedule, or would you prefer to have them request those appointments? You can accept or decline them. So those are just some settings where clinics have a lot of control over how those features are utilized and put into place, and how they're configured to accommodate their workflows.
Got it. So what do you see are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in terms of marketing?
In terms of marketing, I'd say, so we're a small team, which again has its advantages, but when you start getting into content marketing, you don't know how time intensive it really is to build out an effective content strategy. So I think building that out has been more challenging than I was expecting. In particular, because the hiring process is not as straightforward. So when you're hiring for content marketers, not only do they need to be great writers, they need to be pretty tech savvy and also understand business and the product pretty well. So it's hard to get someone who right off the bat understands those things. So the hiring process has been a challenge for us in the content marketing scheme of things. But one of the things that we've done to help with that is hiring freelancers on a contract basis. Kind of gives us both an opportunity to see if it's a mutual fit. That's been really valuable. And then hiring within our networks as well. So you kind of get a better sense of who people are, what their strengths are when you're hiring through someone that you know and trust. And so those are some of the ways that we're navigating that challenge. But I guess the other interesting thing that we're running up against is we've put a lot of effort and focus into establishing our brand identity. And so, the majority of our traffic is coming from branded searches. And so now we want to shift gears and see how we can optimize our SEO a bit better. So that's an opportunity for us moving forward.
So how do you track? I mean, obviously you're trying different techniques when it comes to marketing. How are you currently tracking all these different techniques that you're using?
I'd say Google Analytics is our bread and butter. We go there for pretty much everything. It's telling us, where most of our traffic is coming from. We kind of like to see that shift from direct and organic to some of our more paid searches and seeing some of those referral traffic sources increase. So Google Analytics for sure. And then I'd say in terms of our internal marketing, we use an awesome tool called the Intercom. So that allows us to house all of our client data. And, in a few minutes, we can send out an in-app message. So anyone who's logged into the system can see a little pop-up message about something important. So let's say if there's like an outage of some kind or a new product update, we can very readily communicate with our clients. And then one of the best parts is not only can you do segmentation messaging within Intercom, you can see all those valuable like KPIs, click-through rates, opens, etc. So those are the two that we're leveraging pretty much every day.
When it comes to paid marketing, is it just Google Ads that you're doing, or are you utilizing any other platforms too?
Google Ads primarily. When I first came on, we did create profiles on Capterra and SourceForge. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they're an intermediary for buyers and software vendors. And so they do have a PPC service, and we do use them as well. And I should mention, we should, just recently we've started delving into some social media ad campaigns, but that's fairly new for us.
So how has that worked for you? Because obviously when it comes to paid campaigns, there's many different strategies and there's so much using paid campaigns on social is very different from using paid campaigns on search, where there's more intent involved.
That's right.
How has that sort of helped the business grow?
can you clarify your question?
Yeah. So basically, when it comes to conversions and when it comes to lead generation, how do you find are some of the best strategies in paid marketing that have helped Juvonno grow?
I think, getting a presence on Capterra and SourceForge kind of helps improve your SEO, because it's just another way for folks to find you. It's another place to send your clients to leave a review, and showcase, how much they love your product. So that's been super helpful. And then with Google Ads, I think going through that process of building an effective Google Ads campaign really gets you intimately familiar with those keywords, those top of funnel words versus the bottom funnel words, and honing in on what keywords you want to build into your content strategy and furthermore.
Okay. So often we, as organizations, we spend a lot of time building the content, but we spend so much less time promoting that content. And I was reading this article the other day that there should be this 80-20 rule where actually you're spending 20% of the time building the content and 80% marketing the content. Many companies don't follow that rule. They rarely follow that rule. And I'm wondering, when you're doing your promotions, are you applying, is there a certain split that you have when it comes to creation of content and then promoting the content? Or are you finding that there's a certain approach that works best over there?
I'd say, so we haven't devoted a ton of resources into content marketing. That said, we did do an article with the Canadian Healthcare Technology magazine, which really lended a lot of credibility to a new feature launch that we did. And so with an article like that, where, hey, here's something that I think can build momentum and lend some credibility to our company, I'd say we promoted it as much as we could. So I'd say we probably spent more time promoting that than we did actually writing it. And I do think that's a good rule of thumb, but probably not for every piece of content. I think there's some that deserve more of your attention than others. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I think that's, not every content can resonate with your audience. And I think it's important to track the activity and the metrics based on the engagement that you receive from the content. So with regards to where is Juvonno heading in the near future? What's the vision?
I'd say that in terms of innovation, I can see us probably taking on more of a role of helping our clients leverage their metadata and improve patient outcomes. So I think we'll play more of a role in developing that side of their practice and using our software to do that. I also think we have aspirations of expanding beyond Canada. So that'll involve a ton of market research into those other industries like US and Australia. But ultimately, we've been very focused on building our market share here in Canada. And I think we're poised to probably head into some other industries and use our expertise that we've developed here and apply it elsewhere.
Are you looking to enhance the application in some way or form, incorporating some sort of innovation to improve the technology?
Yeah, so going back to the patient health outcome measures, I think that's huge for practices. There's no standardized way for them to do it today. I think clinic softwares could be that platform to allow them to do that, standardizing that process, and then also giving them the tools to more efficiently measure how effective certain treatments are. So I think we could play a great role in making that process easier. But I've already seen over the past few years, we're more and more involved in creating a better patient experience virtually. So we've taken our patient portal, for example, well beyond just being an online booking solution. Patients can go on there to do all of their admin work. So fill out intake forms, COVID-19 screening surveys, gather their own invoices for insurance purposes. And then it's also a way for practitioners to communicate with their clients by sharing their treatment plans with them online. So I think we'll continue to build out more and more features that give patients a way to get on-demand support from their care providers. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to see what that direction goes. I also think AI and machine learning will be super helpful, especially with optimizing scheduling, because so many times, there'll be an awkward gap in a practitioner's schedule where I think AI and machine learning can start identifying opportunities to optimize where appointments are scheduled or which appointment slots are offered to optimize those schedules.
Interesting. I mean, obviously, if you're looking to expand in other areas, currently you're servicing just Canada at this stage, and you're looking to potentially expand in other areas as well. I think, there's great opportunity in this market, considering the current circumstances with clinics that they're facing. So thank you for sharing those insights. In terms of the biggest opportunities that you see in future, is it mostly the market in the States, or are you looking to grow elsewhere too?
I mean, I think any English-speaking country could probably utilize Juvonno. Where the challenge is billing. Every country has its own unique process for billing insurance companies, especially in the US. There's even within Canada. I mean, Ontario has a special billing process for motor vehicle accidents. So, I think it'll require some market research to determine what direction we want to take our innovation to tackle those markets. And so we're kind of just dipping our toe in at the moment, but market research will be key there.
And that will define the marketing strategy as well, right? Because earlier you were talking about messaging and how you want to align the messaging with the customer journey. Obviously, if you're targeting, new geographical regions, you have to really think about how that impacts the messaging side of things.
Absolutely. And it will most likely have to change and adapt. So, and then the question is, okay, do we have more than one website? Maybe do we create another brand for the US market? So those are all questions that we'll have to answer. And there's no silver bullet. I think it'll just be doing our due diligence, dipping our toe in, finding some clients within a region and focusing on learning as much as we can as efficiently as possible, and then going from there.
Absolutely. So with regards to, I see that my camera is actually off right now, but we'll get that up here. But I'm still here, so don't worry about it.
I can hear you.
Yeah. So basically, with regards to the your personal backstory, obviously you've had an interesting journey. If you were to go back 10 years, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I think that, everything's a learning experience. So, even the bad experiences, I learned so much from. What I will say is I found that where I flourished is where I was given the autonomy to try new things, and have the freedom to fail and figure out what works, what doesn't. And when I knew I had the support of leaders behind me to do that, I felt like I just leveled up organically. And I think so did the team. When a team is empowered to take chances and to figure out what works, everyone just naturally levels up and steps up and takes it. They take accountability for the results as well. So I think, finding a leader that supports you and allows you to, grow is key. And then I think the other thing, looking back on my career, I've seen firsthand how valuable building strong working relationships can be. So not only with clients, but within your network. When you build those strong relationships, opportunities kind of just organically come up. You want to help each other succeed. And that's really led to some fruitful outcomes for us, personally and then professionally as well. So.
Of course, yeah. And based on your experience and the challenges that you have overcome, if there was one big takeaway that you could give to our audience from a marketing perspective, what would that be?
I'm not sure if I would touch on a challenge, but I think what I would tell people to focus on, and at least what's helped me be successful in my role, is empathy. I think in anything you do, if you are able to put yourself in that person's shoes and see how would this be perceived, would I perceive this email or this message, or this ad, if it's something that I would click on, then you're probably onto something. So I cannot minimize the importance of empathy in a marketing role. or I mean, just in general, it's a valuable skill, but especially in marketing, when you're trying to resonate with people, you got to put yourself in their shoes. And if you wouldn't click on something or wouldn't be impacted by something, then chances are you're probably off base.
So true. I think that, and I should say that this is a quality that I don't know how it can be learned, but, it comes to experience, and you have to really, you have to try a lot of things, and you really have to think about your user. And I think when it comes to marketing 101, we talk about creating buyer personas and, the customer avatars and so forth. And that's really an initiation of that, but it doesn't really lead to empathy. Empathy goes beyond that. You really have to
I agree.
Think like the customer. You have to really feel like the customer, right? I mean, you have to get into the feelings, and it's a hard stage to come to, but if you actually get to that stage, it can have a profound impact on your marketing strategy. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think those buyer personas are super helpful to a point because they do help you understand what the pain points are. You kind of better get a better perspective of their role day to day. But that empathy takes it to another level because now you can speak to those pain points in a way that's going to reach them emotionally. Because I think when you can reach someone emotionally, that's when people take action. I think that's the key to being good at marketing.
Absolutely. So where can people find out more about you and connect with you online?
I'm on LinkedIn, Patty Romeo. You can send me an email as well, patty@juvonno.com. And those are probably the two best ways to reach me.
Excellent. Well, we'll certainly include a link to your profile as well as a link to Juvonno as well in this podcast. And certainly it's been quite insightful to have this conversation with you here today. I wish you the best in future, and maybe as you're expanding markets, we can bring you back on the podcast and learn how the journey is going.
Oh, that'd be awesome. It's been an honor. Thank you so much, Mouneeb.